And here we are again. Today's book is Change of Plans by Sarah Dessen. It felt more mature, and in that way I did enjoy it because especially some of her earlier novels, I felt we lacked certain amounts of characterization and finesse. So I do like the writing of this book. There's a little caveat here where I listened to it on Libby, and then when I was trying to do some research, I learned that I think it's the Barnes and Noble edition actually has an extra chapter. If you didn't know that, now you do. A lot of people, though, were saying that they still felt like the book was incomplete. Like these extra chapters did not, one extra chapter did not address some of the issues. And I agree. If I had two things to say, it would be that Dessen left certain plot points open-ended. I didn't think this was her strongest novel plot-wise. So I guess maybe those two things go together. We are opening. We have our main character whose name is Finley, and Finley is dating this dude named Colin. They're graduating from high school. Woo! Finley has a bit of a complicated home life. Parents are divorced. Doesn't have the best relationship with her mother. Her mother is relatively distant. They don't see each other very often. Her mom doesn't invest in her very much, but she has a wonderful home life with her dad. His new wife, or new-ish, they've been together for a number of years, and then she has some half-siblings on that side. Finley is talking about how Colin's family is going on a Disney cruise, and so she had wanted to go on that, only for her mother to point out, well, this was our designated week, and I'm not going to rearrange any of those plans because they're going to go to New York for you to go hang out with your boyfriend. This is my week. Where this is something you will see with a lot of Dessen's books, where largely the mother is cold and absent and very regimented. Finley, she's also made some decisions based off of Colin. So she decided to go to, I think it's the U with Colin versus this college she actually wanted to go to. We get a little bit of backstory where she had gone to this artsy-fartsy school, which this takes place in Lakeview. So once again, I love how Dessen ties all of her books together within the same universe. I wish I'd seen more of it. And actually, I had a really interesting insight where if this book, it's 20 to 30 years after her first book, so her characters, some of her early characters could actually be the parents in this novel, and I would have loved to see that. We actually do hear about Owen from Just Listen, and I wish we'd had more, but whatever. She transferred into Jackson, the high school, and had connected with Colin right away because they were like the smart kids or something, or he was a smart kid and she knew the answer to a question. His friends became her friends. Initially, I wasn't sure if I'd like Finn because she felt a bit tropey to me. I thought she was going to be that typical girl who based her life around a boy and she has no friends of her own without him. And I forget what the book was, but the one where the girl takes over her boyfriend's job at the library during the summer. She has no life outside of him. Thankfully, that's not how this book really went. We segue into her waiting for her mother. And the first odd thing is her mother, who's always punctual, is not there. Finally, the mom shows up 30 minutes late and she has a change of plans announcement. She says, "We can't go to New York. We need to go to the woods." And I'm like, what in the heck are the woods? Which audiobook, 2 thumbs up, I would recommend. Turns out the woods are her ancestral home. Her grandfather or great-grandfather had built it. It's not Colby, but in my head it's Colby. But it's in that same area as the Tides and like the fancy hotel that's often in a number of the books. Finley's grandparents had been gone for some time, and her aunts, who she maybe met once in her life, had been bugging Finn's mom, Catherine, to come and help them sell this place. And all of a sudden Catherine's like, yep, we're gonna go do it. And I think this was one of my really major issues because it took so long to learn about why Catherine, who is so regimented, did an about face. I thought we needed to have that information sooner, but we don't. They go to the woods, which that was her mother's maiden name, or maybe that was her maiden name. Woods is the family name, so the Woods. So they get there, and yeah, the aunts are shocked because they're like, we've been bugging you for X amount of time, and now you show up at a really inconvenient time because Finn's cousin Anne is getting married. So the aunts are Casey and Liz. I had a hard time kind of keeping up with who was who. I feel like Liz is a bit more free-spirited. Casey is a bit more buttoned up, but still not as buttoned up as Catherine. Catherine's like, frankly, we do it now or we don't do it. So they are diving into that. The Tides wants to buy the Woods, which a lot of the characters are not happy about, and even just townspeople in general are not happy about, because the Tides is buying up all of the real estate and turning it into condos and stuff and ruining the charm of everything. But they are in talks with the Tides about selling the house. For that, they have to label everything and decide what stays, what goes, what are they gonna sell, all that kind of good stuff. But I'm jumping ahead of myself. I don't exactly know how long this book takes place. Finn is only supposed to be with her mom for a week, and due to other circumstances, her mom does leave early. But again, we're jumping ahead, but that's just to say, I think it's like a day or two. And Finn has not heard from Colin. She cannot reach him. She's chalking it up to poor service. When she finally does hear from him, it is him breaking up with her. He said that he had been thinking about it for a while and he just didn't know how to do it. She later comes across a social media post of him with another girl, and she, one, notices physical similarities, but aside from her being a replaceable looks like as long as somebody looks like her, he'll go for it. She's just replaceable in general. She is struggling. This does result with her throwing her phone in the lake, which in the end, I loved this. There is another character we meet who also is phoneless, and one, it kind of takes you back to her earlier novels where phones weren't a thing. But then also for the reader, it's just nice for us to disengage and get away from the noise that is a phone. And then I loved, because I'd completely forgotten that she didn't have a phone. And then I loved the way that Dessen did bring it back to, once she does reconnect to the world with her phone, the way it disrupts everything. I was like, that was so smart. But time and place, throws her phone into the lake. She meets two characters. One is Lana, one is Ben. We've also met another guy named Clark, who, a lot of characters in this book, but I was trying to figure out who Clark was when she first gets to the woods, because he's black. I think they're white, so obviously, like, not family, but could be family? I don't know. He could be like a cousin, he could be a half cousin, he could be adopted, I don't know. But when we first meet him, like, who is this guy? How is he related to Finley? Well, it turns out that Casey owns a diner across the road called The Egg. This is where we encounter Lana and Ben. But Clark, and this is little early information, his dad, who has since passed, was partners with Casey. So he actually is part owner of The Egg. This is where all of these people are working. And frankly, this place made me hungry. I wanted a really good egg sandwich or like bacon sandwich every time they were talking about this restaurant. So good job, Dessen. She goes across the way because she's like, I need something to eat. And this is where we meet them. Slight spoiler, Ben will be her love interest. And again, Dessen loves a quirky character, so the main thing about Ben is that he likes to wear kitsch t-shirts. Does it really play into anything? No, but it's part of the Dessen magic, so I'm not going to complain. I believe that we have actually already met Lana. because Lana sleeps at the woods at night. That is also something that I thought took an exorbitant amount of time to explain, but she will sneak into the house, sleep on the couch, and then sneak out before everybody else wakes up. Obviously, Finn notices this and eventually like gives her a blanket, where I'm like, okay, if you've been doing this, because it turns out that she doesn't have a very healthy home life. I'm assuming she's been doing this for a while. Why doesn't she already have a blanket? It feels like the woods is a place that she has sought shelter in for quite a long time, unless maybe she was sleeping in Finn's room. I don't know. I thought it was a little odd, but again, it took a really long time to explain why she was sleeping there. But we officially meet her here. She's a waitress. Ben and Clark are the cooks. It's pretty tame this first day, but from then on out, because there's a guy named Cardoon who works for the Tides, he comes up with a little agreement with Casey that he will bring people from the Tides to the egg, and it just starts to get super busy. As we see the sisters, the aunts and Catherine interacting and talking about selling the house, it's very evident that Liz and Casey are more sentimentally attached than Catherine, and that there is some like deep, dark family secret that at least Catherine is holding on to. This, again, took way too long to get to and didn't really have a lot of development to it. So that was disappointing, because I was like, you made me wait 75, 80, 85% of the way through this novel for that? Like that was the big secret? It was a good secret, but the way that her sisters responded to it, I was like, obviously it wasn't that big of a deal to them, so why did you make it a big deal for your reader? Because Finley notices that they need help at the egg. She starts to help out, and this is how she then befriends all of these people, which again, I thought it was going to be one of those, like, Dessen just loves a quirk, and she loves to introduce her characters to friend groups in like off the wall ways. But I thought this one was really natural. Like, she saw a need, and even though she'd never waited in her life, and although they made fun of the way that she wrote down the orders, she caught on quick and everything was okay, and she just became part of the crew. I do have kind of a bone to pick when it comes to Ben, because Dessen really wanted us to believe that he and Finn were awkward together. I didn't pick up on awkward. I picked up on really cute. So, yeah, speaking of awkward, they're supposed to be bonding over how awkward they are together, and I didn't think they were that awkward at all. I thought they were not mushy-gushy stars in our eyes, heart beating out of our chest. And it was a really slow burn. So it wasn't even like, oh my gosh, why are they in love on their first date? About this point is where we learn Catherine's secret. We learn the reason that she does an about face and takes Finn to the woods. My thing is, if we'd only had just a little something when Catherine showed up at the house and said, sorry I'm late, we're going to the woods. If we just had a little, maybe family emergency, or we're supposed to sell the house and we had like just a little, it could have been a morsel of the truth, it could have been a lie, I don't care. But here, this was also just odd, because we'd had a little tidbit of something. Catherine orders a printer because she says we're gonna have to print all of this paperwork. And of course somebody goes, oh, but there's a printer at the egg, there's a printer over somewhere else. And she's like, well, we need a printer here. Naturally, they cannot get the printer to work. I think Lana finally gets the printer to work. At some point, Finn discovers these papers that had been printed out, and when she picks them up, I think they're on the floor or something, she notices one of them was from a doctor's office or something, and it looks like maybe Catherine is having health issues. Calls her dad, and her dad is like, don't mention it to your mother. You know she doesn't like to talk about stuff. Let her bring it up to you. Well, it is one of those days where everybody is getting out their colored stickers and they're putting them on the things that stay, go, who they belong to, all that kind of stuff. And they're up in the attic, and what is it, rats? They find something, and everybody's like, let's get out of here. And so then on the way down, Finn's just like, so do you have breast cancer? Or she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, what? Did your dad just tell you don't say, like, you don't have a close relationship with your mother. So you blurting out something doesn't make sense. You doing something your father expressly told you wasn't a good idea to do doesn't make sense. And in this time and place, where does that make sense? So we had a lot of those instances, in my opinion, where Dessen just threw stuff at us, and I was like, where did this come from? This is when she and her mother have the discussion, and her mom tells her that she has breast cancer. It wasn't caught as soon as it could have been because she wasn't going to her weekly checkups, but it's really nothing to be worried about. Like, it's getting taken care of. And Finley says, you need to tell your sisters, which Catherine does, which I thought was strange considering that they had a strained relationship as well. But Catherine, I guess, is one of those people who's like, you know, if it needs to be done, I'm going to do it. And this is the moment where Catherine is going to leave early, and she is going to take Finn with her. And Finn's like, you know what? I don't actually want to go. So Catherine leaves and Finn stays. One thing I quite enjoyed, I wasn't sure if I would or not, but Anne is having some issues with her in-laws, because not that she is from the wrong side of the tracks, but her in-laws are wealthy and she's not wealthy. And so she kind of is losing this battle of the wedding. One thing Catherine had done as a wedding gift was she gifted her a wedding planner. So it seems like this wedding planner and the in-laws are trying to turn her vision into their vision. We also see Finn and Ben starting to date covertly. I don't exactly remember why, but they've decided that they like each other, but they don't really want to tell anybody yet. Now that Catherine is back from her doctor's appointment, I thought this was a bit problematic. She starts having fainting issues and health issues, and you're starting to think that maybe her cancer is actually really advanced and there's something wrong with her, which I was just like, where did this come from? It wasn't supposed to be a big deal. I mean, I get it, like the characters can lie, but it wasn't supposed to be that big of a deal. But now Catherine has, I don't know if it's every day, I think it's every day, at least every week, has a nurse coming to the woods to check her blood and make sure she's taking her medication. And I'm like, where did all of this come from? So now you're wondering, how bad is her cancer? Meanwhile, the Tides sends out this environmentalist. That's not actually his name, but like, we knew that the Tides wanted to be very eco-conscious, and so they were gonna send somebody out. And it turns out this guy whose name is Jeremy actually knows Catherine, because I forget what she does for her job, but her job is to assess companies and assess the health of the companies and either shut them down or improve their work function. I think it got shut down, but he was able to get a better job elsewhere, but not as an environmentalist. But anyway, so they know each other, and I guess they'd had like an attraction. So we're going to see this then continue throughout the rest of the story. He is like, yeah, I left my job because I didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted to follow my dream, and this is what I got my degree in, so here we are. The thing is that the grandmother, and I think it's Casey, had done a lot around the house in planting rare flowers and plants. So it was really important to see about that. I couldn't even explain it to you because that's not my thing. Catherine finally reveals her big secret, which is that their father had been cheating on their mother like the entirety of the marriage. and she herself had seen at least one dalliance. There'd been all this stuff revering and esteeming him. And she's like, I just couldn't be behind that anymore because it was all a lie. And this is when the sisters look at her and are like, yeah, so? I think they knew, or maybe they didn't, but they're like, but we're willing to move past it, not a big deal. And I was like, well, I mean, I do feel like that's a big thing. And the sisters didn't care at all. Like, it had no impact on them. And I thought that was really unfair to Catherine. And I thought that was really unfair to the reader. We also finally meet Lana's mom because she goes to get some stuff from her house. Her mother had her when she was really young, and she was never a good mother. She was always stealing from Lana, always trying to get her essentially to be the parent. And so she's trying to guilt Lana into staying, and like, not gonna happen, mom. So like, again, nothing up to this point as to why Lana is sleeping on the couch. Nothing. And then all of a sudden we get hit with her mother and we never hear about it again. Ben wants to take their relationship public. Finn is on board, but then she has this conversation with Lana, and Lana essentially says she doesn't want Ben to, not that Finn reveals the relationship, but in speaking about Ben being with somebody, Lana is being very protective of him and wanting to protect his heart and wanting to make sure that he is with somebody who values him and won't drop him like a hot potato. Finn's like, well, maybe I won't tell you anything. But I think all of this came because Ben is in a band, which I thought this was really odd. He has played guitar for eons, and he is in a band, but he doesn't like to call it a band. He just likes to say that they play music together. And all of this is because he had been in a band when he was younger, and their first gig was, I think, at a sorority house, and they played death metal or something. I guess the sorority sisters did not know about this. Needless to say, the gig did not go very well. It was traumatizing for him. And so he's really hesitant to affiliate himself with a band. But the guy in charge of this not band gets them booked at the Tides. Ben asks her to come, or maybe she offers to go, because one of the traumatizing moments from that first gig was he locked eyes with one of the sisters, and like the progression of her face from when they started to play, when everybody realized this was not a good idea, was just stuck in his mind. And she's like, I can be that face in the crowd for you. I think this is where, because I think Lana was like, oh, is it a date? Anyways, she goes, they play. It's not terrible, but while she's there, she sees Amy. And Amy's acting kind of funny. They're chatting, and then she sees Amy's in-laws, and Amy seems to be trying to hide, Anne is trying to hide from them. Turns out that Anne had just called off the wedding because the mother-in-law did something, and she realized she just didn't want to put up with this anymore. We also see Lana and Cardoon doing a will they, won't they dance. Frankly, I was a little confused about Lana's sexuality, and this felt a little off-brand for Dessen. It could just be because it's been 10 or so years since the last time she published a book, so content has changed a little bit. But I think Lana might be bi. It didn't play into the novel. And for me, it's those little things of, are you including it because it's socially acceptable and expected? Or is it something that we truly need to know? Because the whole novel, Cardoon is smitten with Lana, and she will not give him the time of day. But then I guess they get drunk and make out, and now it's a will they, won't they. I don't know. I thought it was all strange. Frankly, I didn't need any romance with Lana, period. I didn't think her and Cardoon being together was necessary at all, except it was fun to see him pine. I did enjoy that. It was a moment of humor every now and again because you just feel so bad for the guy. So Ben doesn't have a phone. I can't remember why, but he doesn't have a phone. So he and Finn have been phoneless together, and this has been something that's really drawn them and gotten them closer. But she finally buckles and she gets a phone, but she doesn't turn it on for a long time. She actually gets mad at Lana when Lana does try to set it up, which Lana then gets upset over that, where I'm like, but it's not your phone. And if she didn't ask you to do it, why are you doing it? I get it, you're trying to be nice, but like, why are you upset that she's upset that you're doing something she, one, didn't ask you to do, and two, when she did tell you not to do it, you did it anyways. Finally, though, Finn sets up this phone, which angers Ben. I guess he liked the fact that she was unplugged with him. I don't know. Maybe it's the fact that she turns her phone on and she has 8 zillion messages from Colin, and now we're gonna have that whole miscommunication trope thing. A lot of the emails that Colin is sending her are him questioning his life choices. And then there's this whole thing about he was working at a camp, and then he says he called them and told him he wasn't coming back. The people that call Finn are saying he just didn't show up. Whatever the case is, yeah, he is acting out of character. Finn and Ben are sort of fighting because of all of this. And then who shows up? Colin, which I was not sure how I was going to enjoy this, because I was like, seriously, where is this gonna go? But Finn stood her ground. She was like, I'm not into you. I don't even want you here. Colin, though, for me, he was a pain in the neck. I was like, dude, can't you take a hint? And he just like hung out and inserted himself into everything because Anne had gone back to the apartment she had shared with her fiance, Jonathan. And I guess one of the things that she had taken, or two of the things she had taken, were these mementos from when they first started dating. This upset him because I guess it is called a finality to it all. So he was like, I want you back. I don't care about my parents. I want you. I don't care about what they want for the wedding. Let's do what you want for the wedding. So they reconnect and the wedding is back on, but now there's a change of venue, like all of the details, everything is different. So everybody's scrambling to prepare the woods for this wedding, and Colin's like, let me help. We do have a side note where Jeremy learns about Catherine's cancer. That throws a wrench into things for them. He pulls away for whatever reason. Honestly, we are so close to the end of the book. I mean, you knew it was going to happen because it's a Sarah Dessen novel, but her timing and her pacing was a little off for me. She had so many elements that she wasn't fully resolving, or she wasn't fully fleshing out, because frankly, we're not at a point where anything can be resolved yet, but she's not fleshing them out. And so then when she addresses certain things about them in the timeline, I'm just like, well, are we gonna have time to sort this out? Naturally, Colin inserting himself into things drives a wedge between Finn and Ben. And for me, he was the one who would not talk to her. He was the one who would not give her a chance to explain herself. He would not listen. I thought it was just like, are we trying to take one plot and just move it aside for a minute? Is that what's happening now? Because I don't think any of this really makes sense, except that they're 18 years old and they're immature. And we needed that for their relationship anyways, because it couldn't be perfect like the whole time. At one point, Finn just says, look, Colin, we need to talk. You need to leave. And Colin leaves. And I'm like, thank you, Finley. But if only Ben were listening to you in the first place, like, nothing she did would have given him the impression that she wanted to be with Colin, except that's what he had in his head. Then we get to the wedding. Catherine sits with Jeremy. Lana and Cardoon sit together, so we're supposed to assume that, yeah, like, if she's going to publicly acknowledge it, then it means that it's a thing. And then Finn and Ben make up. So that is how the book ends. I think the major issue that readers had that wasn't resolved was Catherine's cancer, because it doesn't tell you how things end, and that's the whole reason they went to the woods, was her cancer. So I felt like we were due more than what we got. So then when we get that additional chapter, it doesn't address it either. So it's really open-ended, which, I mean, that could be fine, but here it's not. Like, especially for Dessen, she does not tend to leave us hanging like that. It was a different book for her. I guess the thing with the woods was because of all the plant life, they weren't going to tear it down. I actually thought that the family was not going to sell it in the end, but that's left open. In the additional chapter, we do see that Ben and Finn are still together. It was kind of a great summer read because it was very light and easy to get through, but it also felt unfinished. Like, we either needed to cut some stuff or lengthen the book. I don't know. Have you read it? What do you think?